Welcome, gentle listener. I am Voldemort, your faithful servant, and today we venture into one of the darkest, most treacherous corners of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. The grim darkness of the far future, where there is no peace, only war. Quick housekeeping before we begin. Like, subscribe, share if you're able, all the usual. The Maelstrom expansion book isn't a cohesive narrative the way the 500 Worlds documents are. And I'll be honest, my recording schedule has taken a hit thanks to a new addition to the family. Say hello to Merlin, my newest squig. So I've had to break this reading of Lair of the Tyrant into multiple parts. My apologies. I'm hoping these become bonus videos rather than replacing the scheduled Thaddeus and Tarquinius content coming next Friday. So, straight from the source, the first segment of Lair of the Tyrant, the Maelstrom. Beware the Maelstrom. Isn't that what old captains say? A childish injunction, as though the Maelstrom were some fable you could overcome through right thinking. As if it hasn't been a canker blistering the face of existence since long before the Imperium drew its first breath. As if it isn't, even now, still growing. It carries many names. The Well of Lies, the Shadowmire, the Twisted Reach, the Maw. The Maelstrom is a swirling gyre that fluctuates in shuddering swells. It is the haunt of pirates and the treasure said to lure them. It is the lair of Xenos and the refuge of traitors. It is the sump into which the galaxy's evils drain, if only they stayed there. Raiders spill from its depths, spearing out to skewer unwary fleets and ravage nearby systems before vanishing back into the nebulae that curdle at its fringes. But they are not the only threat. Madness and mutation seep outward like pus from a wound. Nightmares given form coil from its core to rake worlds far from its ragged edges. Only the reckless dare its tides in any attempt to push such horrors back down its gullet. Only the strong have any hope of surviving its grinding flows and gnashing straits. Warp roots buckle around it, some ruptured like threads fringing a hole eaten through fabric by a grub. The wise understand that the Maelstrom cannot be contained. Its horrors can only be repulsed when they emerge to ravage and raid. So beware the Maelstrom, for that is all you can do. Across the infernal gyre, its twisted tides serve as the stage for countless bloody raids. Power-hungry reavers plague the stars of this corrupted reach, seeking plunder, revenge, mayhem, or simply the chance to carve their infamy into the stars themselves. Death and madness await those without the will to endure. And yet the lure of wealth and power remains a constant siren song, drawing hunting fleets to prey upon one another in a ceaseless spiral of avarice on tortured worlds lit by twisted stars. The Red Corsairs of Huron Blackheart drag the plunder of their raids back to their lairs. The prizes these renegades reap are not only equipment and munitions torn from the dead grasp of their victims, but a grisly tithe of slaves, triumphantly paraded as a mark of the pirates' power and notoriety. Most highly valued are captured loyalist space marines, whose gene seed is marked for extraction by leering chirurgeons. Now hear the words of the tyrant himself, broadcast from the bridge of the Spectre of Ruin during the induction of new Red Corsairs, transmitted from every vox emitter of nearby ships and the freshly sutured vox beads of the inductees. You came to the Maelstrom with a lash of weaklings at your back. You came here with a yoke of doctrines and laws hung around your necks, their weight bending you into subservient obedience. You came here hobbled by others, shackled with guilt, your strength rewarded with betrayal, your faith denounced as heresy. The corpse on the golden throne made you strong. It made you feel feared. It made you angels of death, fit to shake the very stars. Then it shackled you. It tamed you. It demanded your sacrifice to prop up its failing empire, while condemning you for using your full might to do so. You came here seeking vindication. You sought escape and freedom, and foes on which to whet your blade. You sought an existence where ambition is repaid with opportunity and loyalty with power. You sought to survive. Look around at those already loyal to me, those who were once your jailers. See in them the strength required to survive the Maelstrom. See the scars that even transhuman physiology cannot mend. See the iron will, the hunger, and what remains where eyes once were. See their contempt for the taint of terror's leash that still throttles you. Look further through the viewports. Behold this realm, my realm into which you have strayed. There are grav reefs that crush battleships. Spatial vortices that grind entire fleets beneath their teeth. Xenos, mutants, pirates, and renegades all eking out lives of desperation, ever hungry for fresh meat and unwary victims. If you are not strong enough to survive here, you are useless to me. Whatever rumors you have heard about the Maelstrom, they are true, and they are but a fraction of the danger in this region. Now swear a new oath. Grow strong. Swear undying loyalty to me. There is only one power in the Maelstrom you need to fear. My wrath. The Maelstrom itself is a vast and ancient warpreal space interstice near the galactic core, a region that scars both dimensions with a supernatural vortex of tainted reality. It offers hazardous refuge for the damned and a shifting, dangerous mire for nearby systems and ships. Within its bounds, reality and the warp are intermingled, its presence in real space marked by a slowly turning gyre of sickly energies, gaseous nebulae, dust clouds, and stellar material that frustrates any scrutiny from outside. Even on worlds far from its fringes, the Maelstrom is visible as a hideous stain in the night sky, a glowing blemish that invites madness to gaze upon. Within the warp, navigators report that the analogous region churns with tempests and radiates a dark light that obscures the beacon of the Astronomicon, making it extraordinarily dangerous to chart courses anywhere near the region, let alone into it. The warp's corruption does not saturate the Maelstrom evenly. Within its bounds exist real stars and real planets, intermittent passages and isolated zones where the laws of physics retain a fragile grip. But this is not safety. Seemingly random surges of warp energy consume whole stellar systems. Stars blaze with eldritch energy rather than light. Some are colossal stellar crystals radiating cryothermal rays. Planets rise with continental moors across their surfaces. Dense shoals of phasic asteroids snap into reality, embedding themselves into ships whose captains thought they were threading a safe route. Mutation and sorcery are rife even on the region's relatively rational worlds. Compared to the most volatile warp storms in the galaxy, the Maelstrom is somewhat stable, and that relative stability, combined with the promise of worlds shrouded from the rest of the galaxy, has made it a magnet for those desperate to hide. Primitive tribes, mutant cults, pirate bands, and betrayers, both transhuman and alien, scratch out violent lives within its bounds. The most powerful among them are the heretical renegades of the Red Corsairs and their tyrannical master, Huron Blackheart. The Maelstrom is a tortured reach with precious few resources and dangers capable of threatening even the most well-established pirate strongholds. Most of its denizens risk their lives and sanity there precisely because those dangers deter pursuers. Those who do give chase are further confounded by the twisted phenomena that make tracking a raiding force back to its lair, and finding one's way out again, nearly impossible. If the Maelstrom were simply a dangerous void into which those seeking escape vanished forever, the galaxy's great powers might simply ignore it. Unfortunately, its denizens launch frequent and savage raids outward. Imperial flotillas, Xenos fleets, and heretic warbands alike embark on retributive missions to punish its raiders or scour their lairs from existence. But the hidden depths of the interstice allure even those who believe lost treasures wait within. To plunge into the Maelstrom is to stray into a lawless frontier, whose roots the pirates know far better than any outsider. The Maelstrom lies in the galactic western reaches of Segmentum Ultima, within Imperium Sanctus and relatively close to the galactic core. Countless attempts throughout the Imperium's long history have been made to map the interstice, and all have failed. Even efforts to define its boundaries during periods of relative stability have produced nothing more than best guesses with limited and temporary validity. Since the manifestation of the Cicatrix Maledictum, the Great Rift, the Maelstrom has swollen, engulfing whole clusters of systems once beyond its fringe. Its northeastern reaches sometimes flow and merge into the coreward portion of the Great Rift, while at other times routes open between the two. Ships whose crews have survived these channels report detecting worlds previously thought destroyed by the warp, and other planets known to have endured have apparently vanished entirely. The Maelstrom Zone, the massive swathe of real space to its galactic west and south, has historically been a bureaucratic delineation of the Administratum Adepts. It dwarfs most Imperial sectors in volume but is mostly starless wilderness compared to the densely packed spiral arm to its southwest. It still contains hundreds of planetary systems and relatively few habitable worlds. Yet there is exotic material and chemical wealth here, alongside rare star types ripe for energistic harvesting. Some of these stars are conjectured to have originated in the galactic core and been expelled by extreme gravitational phenomena. Such wealth has long drawn humanity and others to the region, and some of its habitable worlds have become vital shipping, processing, and securing hubs from which to exploit it. Among Imperial-controlled space extending perilously close to the Maelstrom's southern reaches are the Yasan and Data sectors. The Yasan sector's position high in the galactic plane spares it the worst of the Maelstrom's influence, though since the interstice's expansion, some of its worlds have suffered demonic incursions and borne the brunt of larger raids. The White Scars, whose homeworld survived a Red Corsair surface invasion, have been hard-pressed to respond to more than a handful of these threats. Meanwhile, the Navis Imperialis assets of Battlefleet Demeter maintain a punishing level of battle readiness across numerous frontline and reserve squadrons to react to raiders emerging from the Maelstrom. West and north of the Maelstrom run warp routes used by Imperial shipping and war fleets attempting to skirt the region. Their importance has surged since the Maelstrom's growth, and they are now indispensable lifelines, though they have come under assault from the sorcerers and warp fleets of the Thousand Suns exerting their power from Sorcerius, forcing even more fleets to brave routes nearer the Maelstrom's edge. To the galactic north lie the Golgothan Wastes, of little intrinsic worth but immense strategic value, laced with deep void defense stations that require constant reinforcement against the alien threats emerging from within. The Maelstrom and its denizens are a wound at the heart of Imperium Sanctus. Raiders from its depths have struck far from their haunts, using unknown means to cross the Great Rift in large numbers and spear into Segmentum Solar itself. They loom large in the minds of the High Lords of Terra, a threat that can only ever be guarded against, never erased. Now hear a report presented to a high-ranking Imperial official, compiled at terrible cost by dedicated servants of the throne. My lady, as requested by your predecessor, and after long and costly labor of many gifted souls, I hereby present the most recent efforts to compile reference material on the Maelstrom. Like every previous attempt, this work has exhausted our supply of valuable assets. Tarot readers have slit their throats with their own cards. Charter scribes have dislocated their jaws with incessant screaming. Navigators have torn out their third eyes. Others who attempted to rationalize this region's anomalies have suffered fates that have made the disposal of their remains rather difficult. We bear such duties with honor. I mention these challenges only to highlight the perpetual need for replacements. Any attempt to reconcile the Maelstrom structure to reality cannot wholly succeed. Thus, this presentation can only illuminate the broadest of strata with the gilding of supposition, and I cannot guarantee how long such information will retain even its limited accuracy. The Red Marches lie at the Maelstrom's northern fringe, near the barren reaches of the Golgothan Wastes. The entire region is saturated with countless changing forms of malefic corruption, mutating not only matter but energy, gravity, and space itself, riddling these supposedly fundamental forces with ceaseless transmutation. Mornhello, the heart of this region, may once have been an Eldar world of the ancient past. Though no physical trace has been located, dozens of astropaths have been lost to psychotemporal screams, hallucinations, and what they described as waves of soul misery that persist throughout. What is known is that Mornhello's worlds are infested with semi-empiric neural predators and parasites of disturbing variety. The Venatorian caldera is a chaotic scar dozens of light-years across, a place of broken things haunted by countless bands of piratical xenos. Magos Krell has ventured the assumption that it results from some technological catastrophe. Though what mortal artifice could splinter nebulae, embed slivers of one planet into another, or throw celestial bodies into phasic flux remains beyond imagining. The Tyrant's Crown, by tarot divination, is the foulest seat of power within the Maelstrom, all but hallowed ground under the heretical rule of Huron Blackheart. Interrogations of captured renegades confirm that this is only one of the Tyrant's many strongholds, offering no easy target for a decapitation strike against his power base. The Zildwire crease is like a dark crack in reality itself. The seers believe it to be a fold in real space of astronomical size, its edges lit by system clusters drawn by the unnatural gravitational pull within its deeps. There are tales of void ships falling over the edge, and of roving stellar fragments glimpsed in the darkness beyond. The Great Legion is a shadow realm, a bruise on both the warp and real space. At least one significant Red Corsair stronghold exists here. What few systems have been located are thought to represent only a fraction of the true number. Negastars and umbral giants far outnumber true stars, casting a pall of unlight across all spectra. One dares not conjecture what repugnant heretics might have hidden their lairs within such darkness. The Howling Gyre is aptly named by the pirates who skirt its borders. Analysis has failed to determine the nature of the subatomic resonance believed to cause the disrupting noises in void ship superstructures. Huron Blackheart is known to have limited direct rule here, and numerous autonomous heretic outposts and Xenos holdings exist throughout this reach. The Parocha Helix is so twisted in the nature of its real space that plotting vectors becomes almost meaningless. Achieving firing solutions during void battles or calculating orbital trajectories are exercises in futility. Perversely, the tumultuous routes between the Helix's systems make interstellar travel somewhat less calamitous than elsewhere in the Maelstrom, a fact ruthlessly exploited by the Red Corsairs operating from Helix Beta. Now for some of the subregions within the Tyrant's crown itself. Nubadab is by many measures the greatest planetary base of the Red Corsairs. It seethes with hundreds of thousands of warriors, not only Huron's elite but also humans, aliens, and mutants. Its cities are gigantic fortifications housing billions of slaves, its forges labyrinthine shrines to piratical strength. The orbital dockyards can harbor hundreds of ships, and the defense network can shred an invading vessel from half the system away. At the planet's southern pole lies the Palace of Thorns, Huron's largest bastion, a dark reflection of its namesake, the original Palace of Thorns from which he was driven. Umbrox Tri, the Broken Narrows, is the principal route to the Tyrant's crown. Apocalyptically ferocious empiric tempests border the Narrows, and within its channel float rogue planets untethered to any star, standing out in the warlit void like dark rotting teeth. Ships seeking passage must thread an insane route among and around them, for all are dangerous, many seeded with orbital weapons or sorceries by Huron, while others possess malefic auras that push or pull at passing vessels. Hell's Iris refers to both a planetary system and the formerly imperial star fortress which spires in orbit above the warped and corrupted world of Irakul. Second in power only to Nubadab, its approaches are guarded by ships and weapon arrays hidden among formerly orc-infested debris fields. The port controls an epicenter of dozens of warp routes, serving Huron's needs as a way station, black market, naval repair facility, fueling terminal, and mercenary hub. The services provided by its tens of thousands of inhabitants make Hell's Iris a lucrative and deeply influential piece of Huron's burgeoning empire. The Blackstone Fortress gifted by Abaddon currently lurks in the interstellar gulf between the Vorst system and the Kymnos cluster. Despite attempts by Huron's underlings to activate it fully, the ancient monstrosity remains dormant. Yet the fortress and surrounding void seethe with activity. Encrustations of weapon turrets and launch bays are constantly added to its surface. Warrior bands delve into its innards to combat Xenos incursions. Meanwhile, a bubbling slick of empiric seepage bleeds from the fortress, and many ships carrying rival sorcerers, priests, and seers jostle in their attempts to stem the tide. Carfast Anchorage is a deep void gravitational anomaly possessing an unnatural entropic stability that has made it an ideal haven for damaged ships for centuries. Since Huron seized it, many of his naval prizes had been brought here. Caged in colossal refit shells for repair, grisly modification to hide their identity, or to be gutted for precious systems. The anchorage's strange properties also mean that vessels end up here by chance, space hulks, wreck fragments, and even whole ships with non-functioning engines becoming drifting tombs for the frozen corpses of their crews, all providing Huron's ghoulish engineers with invaluable sources of material. From the Howling Gyre, the few Malefic-grade data trawls gathered reveal the following. Galmic is a planet of unholy forged shrines and infernal industrial rituals, one of the principal bases of the Word-Bearer's Legion. Grand temples to demonic technology rise from here amid continental famed fields, and gigantic sacrificial altars. Heretic tech magi and forge masters of the Iron Warriors also maintain holdings on Galmic, alongside infernal households of Chaos Knights. Around its blood-red star, Galmic's system orbits in a natural procession whose trajectories have been twisted into ritualistic conjurations funneling unholy power onto the world, by which its rulers strike their demonic pacts. Krolis is the only Necron tomb world remaining from the Vorskik dynasty. It has suffered demonic infestations over the eons, possibly due to the degradation of its contra-empiric wards. The planet's surface seethes with mutating landscapes, and hellish citadels rise from pools of sorcery. Demons have breached some reaches of the tomb complex, and ferocious wars are waged in the deep between the unliving and the demonic. Other reaches remain dormant, their silent catacombs warded by intact noctulus barriers, the Vorskik's greatest treasures sealed within their vaults, an allure to Necron and alien raiders alike. Fargo's Hex was once a world of the pale stars outside the Maelstrom's borders, before it vanished prior to the opening of the Great Rift. It has since been glimpsed at various locations within the Maelstrom, including several visitations to the Howling Gyre. Its appearance is a fell omen. It causes gravitational and empiric catastrophes in whatever systems temporarily host it, and the broadcast pleas of its inhabitants draw Xenos and heretics in large numbers. Most prey on the worlds of the host system, those its cries have doomed. Few target Fargo's Hex itself, heeding rumors that those who scream for aid are in truth predatory entities. The Null Bastion rises from black sands on a small planet resembling a shriveled, charred eyeball when seen from orbit. An obscuring veil of unknown origin hides the planet from all sensors, holding back the Maelstrom's warp taint. Many groups and species have occupied the Bastion over the eons, but it has been held by a succession of inquisitorial factions for several centuries. The latest overseer is Faraka Scalan of the Ordo Artis, who uses the Null Bastion as a base to cautiously build her resources and expand her knowledge of the Maelstrom, sponsoring countless secretive forays into the wider Gyre. Bathmore, the demon world, lies on the fringes of the Howling Gyre. Glimmering rivers of fire lace through kaleidoscopic crystal jungles, and fractal conglomerations of floating peaks glide over bubbling pits of iridescent slurry. Many separate warbands of renegade space marines occupy strongholds amid this insanity, bartering for power and knowledge with sacrifice and malefic pacts. Bathmore's corruption saturates the worlds and asteroids of its system, such that esoteric crystals and wells of exotic energy can be found scattered throughout, drawing inquisitive Xenos and eldritch forge masters willing to dare its dangers to claim them. The Maelstrom is home to countless bands of heretics, Xenos, and mutants. Many remain small enough to evade retribution for their raids, yet without the strength to challenge any of the region's greater warbands. Those who manage to establish a survivable foothold expand their reach through captured ships and grow their numbers by absorbing smaller warbands or leveraging their growing reputation to attract the ambitious. The denizens of the Maelstrom endure desperate lives of survival, piracy, and murder in the hellish mire. Edible food, breathable air, and energy sources to support technology are scarce. The perpetual threat of raids by vicious rivals and the twisting of reality wear away its sanity. The warp's taint brings physical transmutation and spiritual trauma. Most that flee into the Maelstrom do not live long enough to learn how to survive there. Yet there are those who thrive in precisely such conditions. Among those who have turned their backs on the Imperium, humans, transhumans, and individuals variously labeled as mutants or abhumans dwell on the region's worlds, albeit not always by choice. Others are nomadic, migrating from one survivable location to the next, or live permanently aboard vessel ships or orbital stations. At one extreme are those who vaunt their heresy, reveling in their transgressive deeds and ideology. At the other, fearful outcasts hiding from retribution or surviving under assumed identities. Many form enclaves of piratical raiders hiding in the shadow of spatial anomalies, carving hideouts into the interiors of asteroids or claiming lightless gulfs of the void as territory. Some of these reavers are human, such as Queenwise Black Fangs, rumored to cannibalize their victims. Others are uneasy alliances between species, and many are composed solely of mutants, including the Oramark Warherd. Far more powerful are bands of renegade space marines, such as the Red Corsairs, the Harbingers of Carve, and the bestial Razormen. Even for those heretics with the power to survive by preying on others while evading their rivals, there can be no comfortable existence within the Maelstrom. Humans of every twisted variety populate scattered areas of the Maelstrom: smugglers, slavers, gunrunners, those who consort with Xenos, every shade of mercenary from deluded prophetic crusaders to butchers for hire. Many are hiding from the consequences of contravening imperial law. Apostates, evaders of the Emperor's tithes, political demagogues, dabblers in dark sorceries or forbidden technologies. Among the latter, the diabolic tech magi of the Dark Mechanicum control many facilities within the Maelstrom, the most notorious of which is the fallen forge world of Sarum. Multitudinous are the aliens of the galaxy, and all are hated and reviled by the Imperium. Many that humanity or other species have driven to the brink of extinction have found refuge or relative safety within the Maelstrom's veiled region, embittered remnants plotting revenge. Tyrians, Voyan, Gethati, Siaru, and others haunt the region in ragged bands or hunt as lone mercenaries. Despite the psychic danger posed by the warp's power, Eldar Corsairs also raid the Maelstrom. Far more numerous are those who purposefully inhabit it, either to reap preferred harvests or as a base from which to launch assaults on sectors beyond. Countless tribes of orc pirates maintain bases there in constant flux, fermenting and coagulating in joyful violence. Advisors to the Silent King of the Necrons also believe that Thazar, self-styled pirate king and usurper of the Sarn dynasty, has spread his reaving empire to vulnerable tomb worlds within the Maelstrom. Many kindreds of the leagues of Votan haunt resource-rich planets or anomalies caught in the gyre, while tendrils of hive fleets also coil amid its tides. As an interstice between real space and the roiling Imperium, the Maelstrom is saturated with warp energy. In such an environment, the malicious and predatory entities of the warp find it easier to breach the dimensional veil and are capable of sustaining their manifestations, feeding on the glut of psychic energy that permeates the region. The so-called Portentus is a demon enclave said to haunt the depths of the planet Sagalura, supposedly stranded there when the warp's tide cut off its invasion. Ever since, it has subsisted on the soul fragments of its former demonic siblings and by bartering knowledge to mortals. Not all the Maelstrom's human denizens prey upon mankind. What isolated holdouts exist are clandestine and fragile, surrounded as they are by those who could easily overwhelm them. Some are worlds only recently engulfed by the Maelstrom's expansion and yet to attract the attention of raiders. There are also warded inquisitorial black sites, among which is the Null Bastion and shrouded fortresses of the Deathwatch, alongside other secretive installations staffed by those who do not see themselves as heretics, but who nonetheless conceal their activities. The Red Corsairs are a vast force of renegade space marines who favor lightning-fast attacks over protracted campaigns. These nihilistic plunderers specialize in boarding actions, teleport assaults, and high-speed spearheads. To call them a mere warband is to deny the true threat they represent, where small groups of Chaos Space Marines have the power to overwhelm well-armed warships. The Red Corsairs have the strength, coordination, and influence to set entire subsectors ablaze. They are reavers of exceptional power whose infamy has spread far beyond the Maelstrom, and within that twisted region they have flourished as vanishingly few have, rising from their origins as embittered exiles to become its dominant force. The Red Corsairs were born from the horror and devastation of the Badab War. They were the survivors who fled imperial vengeance, remnants of Lefurian's astral claws, and scattered renegades who had followed him into heresy. They fought to survive amid empiric anomalies and demon worlds, stamping their dominance over pirate bands ill-equipped to withstand their assaults. Their bitterness against mankind deepened, and they named themselves the Red Corsairs for the bloody hue they used to deface their former heraldries. Under the tyrannical rule of the resurrected Huron Blackheart, they have grown far stronger. Renegades hailing from dozens of otherwise loyalist chapters have been drawn consciously or otherwise into the Maelstrom, many swearing allegiance to the Red Corsairs. Warriors of the ancient traitor legions have also abandoned their former brotherhoods to join Blackheart's raiders, bringing with them a wealth of experience and hypno-indoctrinated knowledge of loyalist doctrines, deployments, and security ciphers. Recently turned Space Marines have been used to infiltrate Imperial command structures, capturing plans or assassinating officials. Though they have the numbers for large invasions, the Red Corsairs primarily undertake smaller-scale raids, swift and savage actions designed to disorient the foe while securing some ineffable prize or eliminating key commanders. Whether storming an enemy vessel during a boarding action or orchestrating a massed armored spearhead, speed is their hallmark. Among the Red Corsairs' separate fleets are numerous prized ships wrested from loyalists or stolen from rivals, from retrofitted frigates and destroyers to upgraded battlecruisers and heavy transports bristling with hidden weaponry. The Wolf of Fenris was a strike cruiser of the Space Wolves until its capture and remains the Tyrant's greatest prize taken from a foe thus far. Yet as a symbol of power, it is dwarfed by the immense Blackstone fortress gifted to Huron by Abaddon in the wake of the Tyrant's rebellion against the Imperium, a kingly offering that bought the Red Corsairs' loyalty for Abaddon's great galactic endeavors to come. The Blackstone fortress gifted to Huron, known as Corsair's Keep, is an enormous star bastion of incalculable age and potential power. Its innards comprise a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, a fraction of which have been mapped, and whose layout is subject to seemingly random change. Some of its geometric halls are arrayed with spiral-like towers along their length or drop away into yawning chasms lit with rivulets of energy. Others are narrow and winding, their twisting floors covered with millennia of debris. Indecipherable control panels line the floors and walls, alongside the remnants of many who ventured inside, or were brought within against their will. Though the Red Corsairs nominally control this edifice, its size, complexity, and eldritch passages harbor many other entities, some appearing native to the station, their forms imitating its angular structure, others Xenos from far-flung corners of the galaxy, or demonic servants of the dark gods. The Red Corsairs are in constant need. Material, gene seed, munitions, captives, and many more resources are perpetually sought by Huron's warbands. Above all else, they need ships. Without their fleet, they could not rule their realm within the Gyre, evade enemy warbands, explore the region's darkened reaches, or uncover hidden resources and treasures. Their ships give them power in fleet engagements that few loyalist chapters could match. The ancient vessels of the Astral Claws form the core of their front lines, but most of their other ships are usually merchantmen refitted as makeshift warships, carrying concealed weapon ports, hidden launch bays, and cannibalized defense systems. Such innocuous vessels are used to approach prey fleets or planetary defenses, transmitting spoofed soul and access codes or forcing captives to broadcast entry signals. With their numerous fleets, the Red Corsairs have a significant advantage over many of the Maelstrom's other denizens, who often possess only small ragtag squadrons or may possess no ships at all. Caches of weapons and ammunition, fuel, energy, technology, and above all experienced naval crews and mutant scions of navigator houses are hunted with relentless intent, making Imperial warships prime targets. Commanding the Red Corsairs' often disaffected bands are Huron's piratical underlings. Among the most successful are his Reeve captains, marauders of varied origin who all share instincts for coordinating lucrative raids and surviving the ambitions of their lessers. Masters of ambush and rapid strikes, they excel in outflanking strategies, feigned withdrawals, and multi-front assaults that splinter their foes. Utterly without mercy, they will sacrifice warriors under their command if they calculate it will result in a greater haul of plunder. Many Reeve captains rise to lead entire warbands of Red Corsairs, effectively serving as client warlords under Huron's banner. Among the Red Corsairs' battle brothers are those who have thrived by adapting their killing skills to the art of the raid. These are the Raiders, the elite of Blackheart's operation, obsessed with claiming plunder and the evisceration of any who seek to bar them from their prize. They are impatient and aggressive, roving ahead of their fellow Red Corsairs to be first to seize the loot. Armed with the motley accumulation of blades, pistols, firearms, and grenades earned as boons from their lords or torn from victims' dead grasps, gangs of raiders frequently surge off without support, arrogant and selfish enough to seek their own pickings. Where it suits them, raiders will adhere to the larcenous schemes of their warband's commander, but they will invent their own missions when they sense the opportunity. And few other Red Corsairs are willing to follow after them in the hope of freely sharing the spoils. With each new millennium, disillusioned or power-hungry battle brothers defect from the Imperium's service, as Lufurian himself once did. Few, even among the Inquisition, have any idea of the true scale of the rot. In severing such ties, renegades must then endure a far meaner existence. 10,000 years ago, when the heretics of the traitor legions were thrown back from the Emperor's gates and fled to the Eye of Terror, many could still count themselves part of an enormous engine of war. Even weakened traitor legions such as the Iron Warriors and Death Guard retained something of their former structure and were tremendous forces, comprising not only the surviving and embittered battle brothers, but also mighty fleets, armies of mortal thralls, and the hellish packs of the Dark Mechanicum. Renegades of later eras have barely any of that to call upon. They must scavenge and steal, fighting tooth and nail when their ammunition runs dry and the power cells of their advanced weapons sputter and die. If they cannot acquire a ship or force passage on one, they may end up trapped upon a world entirely. There are myths in some sectors of unstoppable iron-skinned giants hunting from settlement to settlement on isolated worlds, feeding on the dead and roaring their hatred into the gulfs of night. Renegade space marines can endure incredible privations, created as they were to survive the worst the Imperium could throw against them. Even alone, they can retain their deadly skills through starvation and drought, shrug off poisons, and power on with reserves of iron will. But they are not immortal. Should imbalances occur within their alchemical biology, their bodies can turn against them. Should the reactor of their armor malfunction, their battle plate becomes a dead weight. And shriven from the culture of their martial brotherhood, madness can soon beckon. Many renegade space marines become pirates and mercenaries, using their unequaled battle skills to gather wealth and power. Some lose themselves in seemingly consequence-free violence. The most powerful might set themselves up as tyrannical fleet masters, rulers of bases on desolate planets, or even as gods to feral tribes. Such positions among mortals rarely last, often descending into bloodshed and madness. Space Marines are living weapons, made to fight in the most apocalyptic of wars and to do so again and again until they fall in battle. It is a part of themselves they can never escape. Most renegades who survive to perpetuate their heresy do so by finding and joining a warband of other transhuman warriors. The Red Corsairs are among the most prominent and notorious of such groups. But if a Space Marine thought treachery meant freedom, they are quickly disabused of that notion upon falling in with other heretics. In the drive to acquire those things needed to survive, they discover they have simply exchanged one tyrant for another. In return for armaments, repairs to their war gear, and esoteric gene technology to maintain their bodies, renegades accept the leash of a new master about their necks. Among the warlords who serve Huron Blackheart, Lord Dra'Tarzar the Iron Reeve was once an officer of the Iron Hands, censured for allowing a horrendous catalogue of deaths among allied soldiery and sentenced to a century of penance in service with the Death Watch. But Tarzar saw the condemnation as a betrayal of himself and his Primarch's edicts alike. He killed the transit ship's crew en route and vanished from his chapter's ken. In the years since, his bitterness over his treatment has only grown. He despises mortal humanity as a flawed prototype, hating it for what he sees as its vaunting frailty. In the Maelstrom, he found a force of respected strength in the Red Corsairs. Lord Tarzar has risen high among their ranks. His ruthlessness and utter disregard for humans and aliens alike have enabled him to seize immense stockpiles of resources and numerous prized ships, with precious few survivors left for enslavement. Tarzar sees Huron's time as over and himself as the logical replacement. The Crimson Choir, Ghost of the Red Marches, is a dark apostle known only by that title, a preacher of butchery in the name of the dark gods and a loyal supporter of Huron Blackheart. Though Blackheart disdains worship, the choir's zealotry is a potent tool to sway renegades into the tyrant's service. His warband, the Thirsting Sons, are skilled in hunting down patrols of fellow transhumans, and the choir controls huge reserves of gene seed bloodily torn from space marines of over a dozen lineages, carefully handing over frequent supplies to Huron, while keeping his own cryovaults well hidden. None know the choir's true identity. He once claimed to Blackheart that his veins hold the blood of Sanguinius. Yet over his decades of service, his mannerisms, voice, deadly skills, even his flesh and skin have appeared to alter. To some Red Corsairs, this is evidence that the Crimson Choir is merely a title, or perhaps a host body occupied by one murderous sorcerer after another. Balemaster Vis Creel, the enslaver of the Ark, is a vicious reaver and a deadly exponent of ship-to-ship combat. When one of the dread Arks of Omen and its attendant Bale fleet strayed into the Maelstrom, it was Creel who masterminded its capture. He now rules the gigantic vessel, renamed the Underroar, using it as a mobile base from which to board and capture more luckless ships. Originally of the Mantis Warriors, Creel is one of the few survivors of that chapter's treachery during the Badab War. He curses those former battle brothers who meekly accepted capture and sought atonement in the Imperium's eyes, and has vowed never to forget what he sees as the Imperium's faithlessness toward him. He thus continues to refuse a replacement for the crude bionic wud hastily implanted during the desperate evacuations from Badab Primaris. General Heinrich Falcriber, the Black Wolf, is a traitor Astra Militarum officer, once a smile marshal of the solstice before his betrayal. He is a cruel strategist and callous spender of the lives under his command, perpetuating a feral cult of personality that sees his soldiers top banners with lupine fetishes and score beast shapes into tank armor. Falcriber's dreams of conquest at imperial frontiers were dashed when his long-awaited regimental command was relegated to anti-piracy suppression. Seeing the commission as an insult, and with his reports and requests frequently ignored, he became increasingly frustrated and resentful. The general flung himself into understanding his pirate prey, and in so doing came to see the opportunities that had been denied to him. In Huron's service, Falcriber skillfully wields armies of traitor guardsmen alongside seized battle tanks and artillery pieces crewed by hastily inducted turncoats, and has at times fought alongside Huron's transhuman elite, driving mobs of cultists and mutants forward to overwhelm enemy strongpoints. And that, gentle listener, concludes the first segment of Lair of the Tyrant. If you enjoyed this, do pick up a copy of the book itself. There is quite a lot of wonderful material within. Like, subscribe, share, and tip if I have earned your bounty. But most importantly of all, as always, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.